What is up, YouTube? I am Cosmic Pro, and today I didn't want to have to make this video, but out of necessity, I believe I have to. I'm somebody that's known to be a Mortal Kombat advocate. I am a shill to some and just a positive outlook kind of guy. I like to look at my favorite franchise as something that is always on the up end, always looking up. But the community is burnt out now. This doesn't include, the casual audience that maybe picks up the game, maybe once or twice a week, right? This is for the more hardcore players, like myself and like the pros that, play the game all the time and are passionate, about the franchise and play the game every day and, do their best to be the best player they can, right? This is sort of, for the more hardcore Mortal Kombat community, even for people that just love playing Mortal Kombat. I'm seeing some things about the basic systems of the game. And I'm going to talk about how we got to this point and what we can do about it. So I had to re-record this because one of my files got deleted, but from one of my fellow sub players here, Can't Stop the Train. Really cool dude as far as I know, and just one of the better Sub-Zero players in the community. Mortal Kombat 1 is so boring, lol. Haven't touched it in a week and no desire to. So Train pretty much saying how, just speaking out on Twitter saying how boring the game is to him at the current moment. Players like Sonic Fox speaking the same thing. Sonic more so advocating for Cyrax cameo to come back to compete with the Striker Lao Hat meta and down one Storm Cell. But he also says that the meta, which is coming off a bit stale already, is this is a problem, right? This is something that everybody in the community is saying. Players like Sonic and like Train aren't the only people voicing this. There are so many people in the community I'm seeing on Twitter go back to their single player games. They're taking a break, they're calling it, This isn't the game for them. And I understand where a lot of them are coming from. There's a lot of frustration with the current state of Combat League, the desyncs, right? There's no reason to hop onto Combat League with the risk of desync, right? It doesn't feel like you're playing a game when you have, that constant risk of just, oh, I might just get kicked. My efforts just might not be put into the system, or I might get a loss. We'll get more into that conversation later in the video as we talk about player retention and keeping the dedicated players involved. But as for the meta, it is pretty stale. You have the strongest comps in the game saying, cover me, I'm going in, and I'm not coming out, right? There's so many different ways for characters to abuse this. I would say one of the top tier teams that I do respect is Reiko and Tremor. I think Tremor's a great cameo addition and has a lot of really cool utility when you're summoning him to block projectiles. You're using him for counter zoning and, to enforce a zoning game of your own with, say, Reiko, right? I think that's a really cool combination that has come out on the more top tier side. But you have characters like Raiden and Kano, which is very strong in the right circumstances. Sub-Zero is sort of a counter pick cameo, right? That you're going to use in situations where you need him. And otherwise, you're running Striker or you're running Lao, right? Some of the strongest strategies in the game are the ones where you're able to enforce pressure off of your minus on block strings or specials. So like Raiden with Storm Cell, right? You're able to enforce offense using Kano, and it's really strong. Lao Hat, you're able to throw it down and engage any way you'd like. You can use Johnny's Shadow Kick, Melina's Teleport. There are so many different ways you can use Lao Hat to make sure you get in on an opponent that's maybe zoning or is trying to play more defensive, right? You're just able to constantly enforce spacing and negate the neutral play that the opponent wants to play unless they want to jump. But if they jump, they're sort of giving up space to the opponent regardless, right? So it's a very strong offensive cameo all in all, right? You can use it with Garrus and other characters to, just have a low full screen projectile to enforce, right? But it's mainly for the offensive characters, I would say. And this is just it's really tough for all players in the scene because the skill ceiling is so low that anybody is able to perform these really strong strategies. I'm going to move on to Mr. Aquaman's post. which I think started a conversation in the community that I think is necessary. Now, he did just announce that the Coliseum Season 6 is going down this year. It's going to be 8 weeks on Sundays starting January 21st. So anybody trying to get involved with that, I highly recommend you guys go check out Aquaman stuff. And, he's a great voice in the scene, great commentator. I respect Mr. Aquaman immensely. But I think we need to talk about what Mr. Aquaman was saying here because it's true. And a lot of people are feeling it. So, thoughts on the current competitive MK community. This is just me reading word for word what Mr. Aquaman had to say here. He says, COVID killed a lot. WB higher-ups killed and currently killing a lot. And every day I see the community killing itself with bitching and lack of actual focus or purpose. I can see in most people's gameplay and content that most of you don't even enjoy playing. There's a lack of expression and fun. There's such a staleness to everyone's copy-paste play from what they see the same few folks doing. So let's break this little section down here because I am a player that enjoys playing the game still, but I do have sentiment towards this. I understand the lack of expression and the staleness because I feel it too. I feel this pretty tough right now. It is really hard when players do want to play the strongest comps that they see. Right, they see Striker and Lao meta and the Raid and Kano combination, and they see how it's used, and because the skill ceiling is so low to be able to play these, they're able to just execute this with little to no effort, right? And it's really hard as a Mortal Kombat fan and advocate to see this sort of the Unga playstyle, brainless sort of tactics and playstyles come into Mortal Kombat, which there's counterplay and there are things you can do to come out victorious. But the thing is, these situations are specific, right? With Raiden, you have to flawless block. With Baraka, you might have to armor through specific points in his string to be able to get out of that pressure. With Johnny Cage, it's just when to poke, when's the best opportunity for you. And it's all the same. It's the same sort of play style that you have to play against the opponent and their cameo combination when they're using it to cover their specials, to cover their offense. And with no defensive mechanic like, say, a push block or a sparking blast, I believe that's what it's called in Dragon Ball, where you can sort of just regain your health and get them off you, a tool like that, right? There's nothing like that unless they have a gap where you can armor, right? In Mortal Kombat. And when you see players abusing these strategies, it's the same offensive string into special into cameo coverage. This is what I've been seeing since the start of the game, and what players like Aquaman and many others are seeing, right? Sonic wants Cyrax to come back. Hey, there's really strong strategies to compete with Cyrax, but if Cyrax were to come back. So really, how do we, let's just finish what Aquaman's saying here before we keep going. So top players can definitely do more, but I don't know how we can achieve that. Money talks to them, and that's about it these days. We needed their full support, a whole ass community, years ago. It's probably going to take them going broke to realize it, but content creation will keep them solo focused and fed. So, he's just talking about the players that take it serious, right? You can't take it completely serious nowadays. It's such a risk to want to travel to these events and spend thousands booking on hotels and paying for the plane ticket and trying to get to these events for food, right? You gotta pay for food and event costs, right? There's so many things that go into competing in the pro competition that it's hard to want to. If you can show out to multiple, good for you. Good on your sponsor, whatever you got. But for most players, they're going to go to one. They're going to go to one, or they're going to play in the online settings because it's not a viable option. We see Street Fighter with millions of dollars, right? We see the top dogs coming out and playing for millions of dollars. Meanwhile, this is the Mortal Kombat Pro Competition Finals right here. $30,000 for first place. This is a $50,000 tournament. That's all we're getting for the Mortal Kombat Pro Competition Finals. For the regionals, I think it's $4,000 prize pool. For the global events, the pro competition events, it's $8,000, $7,000, $8,000. That's nothing. that's nothing for the players for what they sacrifice to go to these events. First place is making realistically $1,000, $1,500 for attending and getting first at this event just to qualify for the finals. That they might not, they might not even if they get fourth. That's a pretty good payout. For rent. 2 months, but what are you really getting here? You're getting the recognition to be able to build your brand, and that's what Aquaman's saying is that really, if you want to play Mortal Kombat on a serious level, all you're doing is you're doing it for the content creation, to say solo focused and fed. Let's continue because this is also another interesting part. So he says that's part of it too. I'm guilty, but I try my best. Another part is that our community is almost as many events as active community members. There's less of a focus on one of a few places, hence more of a scattered feel. I want to talk about this, more of a scattered feel. So I was watching one of the Mortal Kombat Legends, Denzel J. Terry's DJT, right? I was watching DJT's VOD on Twitch recently, where DJT talked about this sort of scattered feel that has been prevalent in the Mortal Kombat community. And what Aquaman's saying here is that there's so many different events that the focus for players has been on one tournament, right? One tournament sort of competitive setting. I'm guilty of this. I like to show up for Slayer, and that's my boy, so I got to show out and try and be there as much as I can, right? But I would say for other players, they show out to a lot of different events and want to play for the money, because the pro scene, which we just talked about, there's no real reason you should risk it for that. So they want to play here at the online settings, the opportunities available. And I think that's a great thing, that there's so many different things every day going on. I don't think there's really a downside to that aside from people's time, right? People have to work certain days, and just the time allotted, they just can't sometimes. And that allows for new folks and new faces to come in and want to play, which is a good thing. But I think the scattered feel is more so what DJT was talking about. DJT, he says it's hard to get games with people, because a lot of folks, they have their own little circles. You have all these different discords, right? Top players making their own discords, and conversing with certain players for sets, right? And it locks off, a lot of the people in the scene who are just, in the Twitch chats, looking for games, or there's where there's a community forum, right? Test Your Might used to be a thing, not so much anymore, and this has sort of scattered the scene in a negative way. You have people with their own, they don't want to waste their time, right? The top level players, they want to get games that are going to further their skill. They want to further themselves as a player by fighting the players with the best talent. By doing so, you lock out potential talent, right? By not entertaining the time, that you might be wasting, it scatters and discourages people from wanting to even ask, right? So that leaves a lot of players, coming from different communities, coming together to say, hey, I see you here a lot. Let's just play together, because I can't get games anywhere else, right? Or I can't get games with the top players. They're just, they don't want to play, On this game in particular, I've been so blessed to be able to play with King Gambler, to be able to play with Slayer, to be able to play with DJT, and be able to compete and play with some of the best players. But it's hard to ask for games after the fact. A lot of people want to act tough, right? A lot of people, it's hard in an online space to be humble, right? And I think this is sort of a deeper problem, but I don't think it's worth the pride. I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a community to build it back up and be welcome to players that actually want to get good, and players that are good but just aren't able to get games, right? There's a lot of potential players out there, and it's hard because you don't know if they're toxic nowadays. You don't know what kind of shit they're going to talk, and that just, it's the community's fault for being as negative as they have towards NetherRealm, on Twitter, thinking they're the shit. It's tough. You can't really tell with people nowadays, and that also contributes to how players feel with the right mindsets towards other players that, they just don't know, Aquaman says, we will see. I'm hopeful and still grinding to bring folks together, trying to pull an offline off again, but I just turned things around, so we will see, haha. Offlines are expensive. Try to host one if you don't believe me. I plan on building out the Coliseum in 2024, as well as online events that just give us some fun to do between offline. So he did announce the Coliseum 2024. If you guys want to check this tweet out, there it's great, and I think is important to think on for sure. P.S. Please see this as a hobby first. Don't bet your life on it. Take it for what he says, guys. Seriously. Right here is a comment in the comment section right here. It says, very well said. You hit the nail on the head for the fact that there's so many dispersed events through the scene, making it a challenge. If you can think of a way for Reddit to help boost the signal or aggregate events, I'd love to make that happen using the subreddit's reach. So I think this is sort of the downside that maybe I missed before when reading it, that there's so many different events now that the reach of these events, the impact of these events is lowered because there's so many different people running these events. So garnering interest for just one main event is harder nowadays. Another tweet here from Tom Brady. If you win the MK1 Pro Comp final, you made less than a 15-year-old working at McDonald's in New York for a year. We need to redefine our use of the word pro from now on. Something has to happen on the system level if we want change. I think there needs to be more defensive mechanics, like a push block. You make all cameos ambush, but you give the player an opportunity to push them off of you, on block. Maybe a flawless block pushes them away, pushes them off of you. Every time you flawless block, maybe they get pushed off of you or get pushed away in some way. Or maybe there's a sparking blast mechanic or something like that in Mortal Kombat. We need to make this game a true assist fighter if we want it to be fun. And it's not, it's just not fun for a lot of people right now. That's pretty much it. I think that's the crux of the problem. There are other things. The online play, they switched it from first to 3 to first to 2. It makes the sets go by quicker, but it's not, it doesn't feel like, there were so many times in the first to 2 where I came back, 3-0 on somebody I figured out, right? And I think that's the sentiment, is that you really get a feel for player skill when it is first to 3. You just change the point system to fit a first to 3, right? The rank system. I think the rank system could use some work. I do like the idea of the skins, right? The skins are pretty good bonus for ranking and wanting to rank, but I don't think that's necessarily a full incentive for the player. I think we need to look at what Riot is doing with League of Legends and, Valorant. You have a ranking system. You get to Masters, say Elder God, right? You get to Elder God, and then there's a point system where you can really see, based on how many games you won out of that set, if it is first to 3 in the future, you can see how many points you made, and that adds to your total points within Elder God. You're not just Elder God and that's it, right? You have some sort of ranking for the top level players to show who's really the best, right? And give that meaning, that value to ranked. For character specialists, you could have a ranking system there too, right? Showing who's the best with what character based on points. I think that's something that NetherRealm needs to think about and look at. Fix the desync. Give us rooms like Street Fighter, where we're able to queue up for a match or maybe wait in the lobby, maybe have multiple different rooms where we can wait and spectate each other's games, right? All in the same. This is something that is expected. I think we deserved it as the Mortal Kombat community, and we're just not getting it right now. So yeah, that's all. I just wanted to make a video covering the community as of current, the sort of vibes. I've been playing Baldur's Gate. If you haven't played Baldur's Gate, play it. It's great. I love Baldur's Gate, but that's sort of the state of the Mortal Kombat community as of current. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be having more videos in the future. It's just been few and far between as of recent, but hopefully soon we'll be back on it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.